It's frozen?
No, it's
Okay.
good. 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go! Hello, everyone. This is Luca Majno. We're back with Frank Gregory Ford, and this is Global News Update on TLBTV once again. Courtesy of the Liberty Beacon Project and TLBTV, this is where we give you complete, backstage, and up-to-date info as to the developments occurring in our world today. How are you, Greg?
I'm in fine form, Luca.
I should have let you
Every
take
day
a sip.
get better now, okay? So,
Good.
you know, and it's a good day today.
Oh.
It's always a good day when I have this show, when I contribute to it.
Well, it's always a good day when we know that we got things to say, and, you know, there's no agreeing and disagreeing, and opinion and not opinion. There's none of that when the truth happens. When the truth comes out, it's truth, and there's no two ways about it. Well, there's always two sides to every story, you know. I don't think so. Not in this case. This is all about truth, and this is all about verification, verified facts, and we keep telling everybody, don't believe us. Research.
Do your own research. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then be prepared to do something. Don't sit there and say, oh, gee, this is really bad. Oh, gosh, this is bad. Okay, do something. All right? That's what our society has been practicing on us for about 40 years now, is accept the government line, all right? Accept the news as it's put to you. And if you disagree, don't do anything about it. Oh, well, we'll do your thinking for you, says the government. You've got it.
Right. And they've had a lot of experience at this. And I'm gonna tell you a little story very quickly, okay? I grew up with a really bad speech impediment, okay? I grew up stuttering because I was afraid of my father. I was afraid of the school. I was afraid of the teachers. I was bullied all the time. I developed a really bad stuttering problem. And if I can do shows like this, when I know that millions of people are watching, that means that anybody can do anything at all. So there's no excuse. Same as for knowledge. There's so much stuff going on now. There's so many ways to find out what the truth is and what, you know, what opinions are. Opinions are like, should I say the word? Opinions are like, you know what, that we sit on. Everyone has one, okay? Greg, you want me to start Snapshot real quick so that you can carry on with what you want as well? I'm sure you got a lot to say.
No, and let's make the announcement about who's coming as a special guest.
Okay. Well, I was going to wait till the end. We've been talking about Cody Snodgres, okay? We've been talking about Cody Snodgres for the last 3 or 4 shows. The first show was absolutely essential for me to bring in what I heard when he was talking to Jeff Rentz at first. The next show after that, Greg and I did some incredible digging, and he's got stuff that he had on the shelf before that contributes with this, and this goes with this, and oh, we got this that goes in with this in here. And we put up all the pieces together. And when Cody Snodgres was on Jeff Rentz's show talking about the Oklahoma City bombing and how he was contracted to blow up the federal building himself and refused on moral grounds, he left a little email on the radio show, and I just happened to have a pen, and oh, okay, you know, Cody, I forget what it is, Golden Elk, Cody Golden Elk at yahoo.com, right. I believe it is. Anyway, I wrote it down. I called him the next morning, and no, I'm sorry, I emailed him. I emailed him I think it was the same night, maybe, or the next morning, and I got a response within 4 hours. Yeah, give my blessings to Frank Gregory Ford, like you guys know each other. And it's like, you know, he was talking to you about you by first name, and he was saying, you know, blessings to him and his family. Get the time schedule together with Frank and let me know what's going on. So tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Central Time, we are doing a show with him. We're recording a show with him, creator willing. Because this is too important. And they tried to kill him because right after the Rentz show that he did, the Jeff Rentz show, he was in a violent car crash. Does that sound familiar? Right? And he was admitted to the hospital with concussion and all kinds of stuff that he's going to talk to us about. So for privacy and protection reasons, we will not have his picture on, but we'll have a little square on the bottom showing where he is, and he's going to join us by phone. So, Greg, I'm going to do a screenshot with you very quickly. And I want to start with something that my boss, Roger Landry, the leader of the pack, I should say, Roger Landry, came out with. It's called fear. And this is exactly what the government wants from us. And please pay attention. What those who control this government do not wish you to understand is that everything you wish America to be is on the other side of the paralyzing fear they promote. Okay, and even Mark Twain had a gorgeous quote on that. He said, "Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not the absence of fear." And that's a really good way to start today, because this is what they do. They keep you in fear, and I believe this was Yugoslavia with one of the best photographers the world has by the name of Ron Haviv. It's in the East anyway, in Europe. And, you know, this is how they want to keep us in fear all the time. And we can go back to 1890 in this country, on this continent here in the United States, where the editor called for genocide of the Sioux people. Now that sounds familiar. Isn't that what Israel is calling for Palestine? Isn't that the same thing? Anyway, you can see here in this picture the missionary that makes sure that the savages are civilized. And one of the most powerful and he's a spiritual man, he's a medicine man, and he has shackled legs and he's got a ball and chain. So it's just to remind you of the established order of things. As it is today, it was then. Americans willing to cross a frozen river to kill you in your sleep on Christmas. Totally not kidding. We've done it already.
And that's an interesting picture right there. If you go back, yes, George Washington,
yeah.
We know him as and revere him as the father of America. Mm-hmm. And of course, Washington, D.C., all the memorials and so forth, a state is named after him. Well, you better do some research, folks, and find out exactly what kind of shenanigans Mr. Washington was up to. First of all, that's an inaccurate picture right there, crossing the Delaware. No, everybody was hunkered down, just praying to get over the other side. And he was not standing up in the bow, okay, looking like Napoleon. All right, he was hunkered down too, and praying he got to the other side. Now, everyone needs to know that Mr. Washington, General Washington, was actually a surveyor, and he surveyed that area in Virginia between the Tidewater and the Piedmont. And guess which areas that he wanted and initiated the clearing process of the Native Americans that were there. And he wasn't bashful about ordering the genocide of any Native Americans that were in that area. And I mean killing, folks.
Yes.
Killing. All right.
They called him town destroyer. In Iroquois, they called him Hanadagayas. That was his nickname. And he had something called the Scorched Earth Campaign, where he plowed, destroyed, raped, pillaged 50 villages in one day. This is the type of person we're dealing with, okay? But there's more on that coming on another show. We continue very quickly because I really want to get this through, so you can take the floor, Greg. Ayn Rand, A-Y-N-R-A-N-D, Ayn Rand. Check her out. See what she has to say about Native Americans. Exactly the same thing that George Washington said. George Washington said that the beasts of the forest and the Indians are the same. They just differ in shape, okay? And this is what we grew up with. And this is how our society was forged. And there's the Native grandmother looking at him, looking at Ayn going, huh, really? We're not gone, sorry. You know, you wanted to kill us, but we're still here. You know, and it's interesting to see what Ayn Rand has to say about friendship and family. You know, you put that over productive work, yes, then you are immoral. You know, do your research. This is where we come from. And even Gore Vidal had some pretty scathing words to say about Ayn Rand and the way she was, and, you know, that she was immoral and evil. Okay, so history is written by the conquerors, right? by the victors. Well, look at this. You know, the colonists giving the Indians something to eat. What was it, Thanksgiving? Isn't that a little backwards?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, in 1604, in very, very high up in the state of Maine, a little island called Isle of St. Croix. In 1604, the Indians had to watch the colony dwindle into less than half in their first winter because they hadn't eaten. There was scurvy, there were diseases, there was malnutrition, you name it. So in the spring of the next year, they came over with food, with tools, with agricultural, ideas, and they saved the Europeans. It's exactly the opposite, but this is what they do. And right up to today, where everybody was crying about Sandy Hook, well, look at this. So this is great news. Look at the picture by Michael Duffy. Okay, this clearly shows 11 beautiful grown-up children from Sandy Hook who are alive today, and they're not dead. Merry Christmas. This is like a slap in the face to people that went through things like 9/11 or Sandy Hook or Columbine or anything, and the lies continue with Israel, because Israel keeps saying that they're the chosen people by God and this is their land. Well, sorry, but Israel was made up by something called the Balfour Declaration, which promised Palestine as Jewish land. So it just the lies keep going. Israelis said that in 50 years they turned the barren wasteland of Palestine into a thriving economy. This was the barren wasteland of Haifa, Palestine, in 1940. So, wrong again. Okay, and if you do your research, you can find all this stuff out. Everything is flipped on its head. Absolutely everything. Israel braces for earth-shattering indictments against Netanyahu. They've wanted to do this for quite some time now. Former advisor to the force, Lior Chorev, says, according to Zero Hedge, the indictments to follow will be earth-shattering and they will result in early elections, possibly as soon as May 2018, which would end the political career of the longest-serving Israeli leader since founding father David Ben-Gurion. So they're really not looking good right now in Israel because they're creating a lot of attention for themselves. This 17-year-old girl, after having her cousin shot in the face and put into an induced coma, we'll probably have pictures of him that I'll show in the editing process. She went out and she slapped an Israeli soldier, which is what we talked about last show, and she kicked him and she slapped him. That was one thing because they were all laughing at her. They were going to dismiss it. But a video surfaced of her doing that, and that's what caused her to end up having 2 years in jail and a heavy fine imposed. And I have good links to Palestine with my friends on social media. So I really think it was the fact that the video went viral, which really embarrassed Israel, and they will not tolerate that.
Well, yeah, gee, imagine that. She's really upset because these guys took it very casually and shot her what was brother
her cousin
with a rubber bullets,
right?
All rubber bullets, and people don't think because rubber bullets are called rubber bullets that they're not lethal. Her cousin is very lucky to be alive, and I did see a picture of him today.
Yeah.
And he looked like he was hit by a truck. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's in terrible shape, and they think it's funny. She's going to prison for that right there. All right. Now, I can actually say that it's a good thing that there was a video camera on her, because it's a good bet that she could have been shot herself. Attacking an Israeli soldier. Okay, over this. Yeah. So. Yeah, no, this is an earth-shaking event. I believe this is her mother, right?
No, this is her aunt. And her aunt was silently protesting outside of the prison where she was. So they're taking her away too. They're just having fun with everybody. And it's exactly the same thing as people are doing in our country, okay? we've been talking about the Clintons, we've been talking about the CIA, we've been talking about Bush. Well, today I came across this that I really wanted to throw at people just to let you know how much we're being laughed at, okay? In 12 speeches to big banks, Hillary makes $2.9 million. She makes more money than what the average American will make in their lifetime after 12 speeches to big banks. So
now, at this point, I need to ask, have you seen one word of those speeches anywhere, Luca?
Exactly. The transcripts do not exist. And if you go on Google, and you want to find out more about it, all you have to do is, actually, I was looking for Minna, Arkansas, and drug running and everything else, which is another nice story. And look what I got. All these, if I had put Clintons and corruption, I would have got a lot more detail in my search engine. We wanted to make sure that we honor Terrance YEAKEY from the Oklahoma City bombing, who was one of the first responders to that. He was having coffee around the corner in his police car, and he was the first responder that ran in there, and he saw an unexploded bomb in the daycare. Okay, he was told to shut up and to put it away and not talk about it anymore, and he was assassinated. And we even have pictures of his body. Greg, did you want to say something medically about this before we move on?
Yes, very clearly he was assassinated. All right, that is in his right temporal lobe of his brain, and of course, he was cut to pieces, but they're not showing it as all the cuts that he suffered. Somebody and several people were after him. They pulled him from his car, cut him to pieces, and then in an execution style, shot him in the right temple.
Yeah, there was a tremendous amount of blood in the car, and he was found about a mile away from the car with no gun present until the FBI shows up. Okay, that was after what, 4 or 5 hours? That right. Approximately 40 police officers were looking for the gun. They couldn't find anything, and the FBI comes in, and all of a sudden, there's the gun. Right. So it's very obvious what's going on. And when you want to look for anything meaningful, anything horribly revealing for anybody in criminal activity, this is what you get on YouTube. This is really what you get. They've taken absolutely everything down. I'm going to finish very quickly with a slide like this, because this really shows where we're at today. People walk away from the leader. They don't want to hear what he has to say. He sets up an explosion. Everybody's scared. Everybody runs back. Oh my God, we're so sorry. What happened? My God, save us, do something. And all of a sudden, he's got all the people that he wants. Does that sound familiar, Greg?
Well, it does. It's called provocation. All right. And nothing works like provocation for generating provocation like terrorism, phony baloney terrorism. Okay, that's what we're seeing here, is how terrorism is applied. Okay, now when we do our conference or presentation, we're going to hear exactly about what happened. Like with Oklahoma City, that's what you think of, folks. When you were watching those little children being blown to bits, that was intentional. That was designed. You'll hear from the person who the job and contract was offered to blow that building up, and specifically targeting those children. All right. Mm-hmm. And then you'll hear about how Janet Reno, okay, in Oklahoma City, not Oklahoma City, Waco, okay, Waco, she actually, her war cry to all the American people was they had to get in there and do what they did, annihilate everybody to keep that bad, what was his name, David something Koresh?
Yes.
From slapping the babies. Say what? Slapping the babies? Well, here's the monstrous things, folks. Okay, those people that supposedly burned to death at Waco, well, it was set up the night before to do exactly that. Okay, but Timothy McVeigh took the night vision goggles to the helicopter crews, and they had the machine guns on board the helicopters the night before, and completely annihilated the building at WACO. Okay, and so in other words, the engineering vehicle that was sent in to burn to basically quote pump tear gas in and drive the people out. Notice how no one came out? Because they were all dead and probably had been dead for a couple of days. By now, the recent reports we're getting, they had been dead. That was all for you folks. That was all for the public eyewitnesses to say, oh, geez, made the government look like really good guys. They were trying to get those folks out of there. They were trying to keep the babies from being slapped. Well, we have some great stuff on tomorrow's show, and you're going to hear some really gruesome stuff about Janet Reno. Unbelievable. Who are these people that have been in charge of our government? I mean, who are they? I'd really like to know. What I'm hearing every day, I'm hearing stuff that is so gruesome. Yeah. You know, and I've been through how many wars, how many government operations, insurgencies over 30 years. I've been through all this stuff, gruesome stuff. I've seen torture. I'm the guy who stood up to the American government to stop torture, folks. And what I'm hearing now, okay, and what you're going to hear is beyond all description of humanity, okay? These are the people that are leading us. No wonder we're in such dire straits. All right. You know,
Greg, but before you fly off that, I find it really interesting, and I'm so glad that Jeff Rentz touched on that when he was talking with him. Jeff said it was absolutely beyond him. He couldn't understand, and he was asking Cody to explain to him, what does he think? You know, how do these people think? How can these people be so anti-human? You know, like I saw a video today of Israeli soldiers, okay, surrounded by Palestinians. The Israeli soldiers are sitting there playing with one woman, and he makes her drop her bag, empty it, and then he shoots her right in front of everybody. I have a video of that today, and it just made me feel the same thing. How can people inflict such horrible, you know, human rights violations and abuses on other people, other humans? It's just incredible how deadened the senses have to be. It's something I can't fathom either.
Well, remember, the Israelis were there in Abu Ghraib prison with us, with my intelligence group, with the CIA, and they were giving the consultations on how to properly torture Arabs, okay? Middle Eastern Arabs, all right? They were consulting, the consultants, okay? Now, I have some great stuff, Luca, on this, all right? And by the way, I just wanted to say where I'm broadcasting from is right next door to Carmichael, California, and I just thought I'd let you know that Mr. Gary Webb, who stepped forward a few years back, stepped forward and said that the CIA is importing, and Freeway Ricky Ross, okay, supports this. This situation is that the CIA was intentionally importing cocaine to be turned into crack cocaine in the inner cities, largely African-American minorities inhabiting these places, and intentionally sold by the CIA. Well, he was, quote, he committed suicide, okay, just a few years ago, committed suicide less than a quarter of a mile from where I'm at now, right now. And of course, everybody said, oh yeah, he manufactured the whole thing. Guess who manufactured the CIA? John Deutsch. When this came out, John Deutsch resigned less than a month later when Gary Webb's information came out. And of course, John Deutsch is comfortably retired, and the CIA barely even blinked. But surprise, guess who's blinking now? All right. So yes, and by the way, Mr. Gary Webb died of 2 gunshots to the head from a single shot, single action weapon. Okay, it was a family heirloom weapon. He was shot twice in the head. Okay, that's a tough man that can shoot himself once in the head, and then recock the weapon and put it to his head again.
Right. Greg, there's a picture of him lying down. He's sitting in the driver's seat, and there's a picture of him lying down, you know, with blood all over the place in the car, and, you know,
Yes.
gunshot wounds everywhere. And we're showing it now, actually. And that's the first picture that, you know, okay, I'm going to Google Gary Webb. And that's the first picture I came up on.
Yes.
So with all this information available, how can people not be aware of the truth? How can people not be up in arms like we are, you know?
Okay. Now, you might as well Google, okay, Army Special Forces protecting poppy fields that produce opium.
Right.
All right. What are we in the middle of right now? We're in the middle of a epidemic. Hundreds of people are dying a day now, thanks to the opium epidemic, right? McKesson Corporation, McKesson Pharmaceuticals, all right? That's the biggest importer of opium in the United States is McKesson. And guess who the Cherokee Nation has to sue? To show you how monstrous this whole thing is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, several hundred, thousand actually, Cherokee Native Americans have died, ODs, of course, and it's about 100 a day now of people, citizens, our neighbors, our loved ones, our relatives are dying. And you know what the lawyers, of course, only lawyers could be this callous and indifferent. Okay, I'm convinced now to become a lawyer, you have to be a confirmed sociopath and have sociopathic tendencies to be a lawyer, a good lawyer, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Okay. But the McKesson legal firms, okay, that represent them, have told the Native Americans, go ahead, sue us. Ha, ha. See what happens.
Right.
Ha, ha. Laugh, laugh. Okay. Does that give you an idea how compassionate the pharmaceutical companies are? Okay.
Greg,
to Americans?
I'm sharing screens with you right now, and I wanted you to see this because this is exactly what we said on the last show. If the government really cared about the opioid epidemic in America, these guys would be holding flamethrowers.
No. Hey, you're right. They are.
So,
yeah, there they are, and special forces. Okay. Now, what can you say about this? Here they are socializing with the Taliban. Haven't we been fighting the Taliban? Okay. Didn't we go into Afghanistan to fight Al-Qaeda and the Taliban? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, guess what? All right. It doesn't look like it now. I guess the pharmaceutical companies are issuing orders to the American fighting man. Okay. And those are our boys, our American sons. They're protecting the opium crop so it can be shipped here thanks to the Awan brothers in Pakistan, mm-hmm. thanks to Hillary Clinton, who they work for. The Awan brothers work for Hillary Clinton, by the way. And that's another thing that's got my dander up. Guess who? Guess who's over there? And let me see. They're on the U.S.-Mexican border protecting importation of drugs. And they're in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Guess who's there doing all of this? Courtesy of the United States government and courtesy of Hillary Clinton. Blackwater. Is there anybody on earth who doesn't know what Blackwater is and who it is? Okay. Well, here, wake up, people. You know who the #1 defense consulting agency is right now? It's Eric Prince and Blackwater consulting with and advising Donald Trump.
On terrorism.
Right? What can I say? Donald Trump. Yes, I saw Blackwater. They used to come visit us at Abu Ghraib prison. What do you think they came collecting for the poor, the unfortunate of Iraq? No, folks, they're mercenaries, and so we're getting advice, consultation. What is going on here? I want somebody to tell me what is going on. I'm confused now. Okay, I really don't understand this. Okay, now I heard yesterday a Russian general and I know a few Russian generals, by the way, okay, has stepped forward and said, what is going on here in the Middle East? Okay, what is going on in Syria? Now, first of all, I find out, I didn't know this, there's 17 separate U.S. military facilities, 17 bases, okay, in Syria. Now, I'm sorry, when did we get attacked by Syrian terrorists? Okay,
Right.
did they blow up any buildings in America?
When did we ever get attacked, period, by anybody? Hello?
You've got it. You've got it. Now, what is happening? And this general was thoroughly pissed. Okay, gee, imagine a Russian general being pissed. Okay, but guess what, folks? I hope you're sitting there with your notepad taking notes.
I am, actually.
This general says Americans, and he actually named the place. Okay, it was like Tenerife. He named the place in Syria, and he says, yes, that's where all ISIS troops are going for training and retraining. By who? By who? Okay. Well, it's not the UN. Okay, might as well be, but it is America. America has been training ISIS troops, and such luminaries as John McCain has been supporting this.
Isn't he the father of ISIS? Excuse me. Don't we have John McCain, Joe Lieberman, Hillary Clinton, and who?
Okay, Joe Lieberman, McCain, Clinton, and Lindsey Graham.
Thank you. The big four. Those are the people that made ISIS. And ISIS is actually Israeli Secret Intelligence Service.
You've got it. And so, I confirmed with my former general, Janis Karpinski, that yes, a massive tons and tons of small weapons were seized in Iraq, and most of them were in Cosmoline packing, okay? And they had to survey all of these weapons, and guess where they went, folks? ISIS didn't exist, but they went into an area near Mosul and were put in warehouses. I'd say somebody had something in mind concerning Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, or AKA, and I know the agency gets angry when I say this, but Mr. al-Agassi al-Baghdadi is the real name of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, okay? So what we have here, folks, is yes, America has been training, arming, directing, transporting, logistics, intelligence, flying, you name it, weaponizing Al-Qaeda / okay, ISIS, okay, ISIS. Now, I know that caused some panic among people when they said, doesn't that stand for an Israeli Secret Intelligence Service? Guess who's behind on the ground supervising ISIS? Okay, it's Israel. Okay, yeah, we provide all the goodies. We always do. We always write the checks for all these things. Okay, but I'll bet Hillary didn't provide any of her personal funds. Okay, to help ISIS. All right. Now, I want to know about all those heads they cut off. Okay, that's the next question I have. It's funny how they picked people that were journalists. Okay, largely journalists writing about them. It's as if their victims might have seen something and might have been deeply angry about what they saw, like American Apache helicopters providing ground support for ISIS convoys, brand new trucks, Toyota Hilux models, of course. Okay, very nice truck.
I want one.
Yeah, me too. After seeing, hey, ISIS give them an endorsement, it doesn't come any better. All right. So yes, I want to know. Absolutely, there's no doubt that the big four I just named and we just named, I want to know when they're going to prison. That's my big question. Okay, to Jeff Sessions. When is Hillary Clinton? I especially want Hillary Clinton learning how to make license plates. Okay, or hey, I know we can actually teach them all how to make office furniture, okay? That'd give them a legitimate skill. Let's face it, all these clowns don't have any legitimate skills, all right? So we have here is absolute confirmation they are supporting ISIS. They've had it structured, and certainly, let me see, an American general now has been caught leading ISIS, along with an Israeli general leading ISIS, okay? All the ground munitions. What was it? Last month, they received several tons, almost $2 billion. This is ISIS, almost $2 billion worth of small weapons and missiles, all right? Yes, they are, how do they say that? Johnny on the spot contractors, okay? Whenever we need something to happen in around the world, they just pick up the phone and call either ISIS or Al-Qaeda, okay? Hey, they probably have a special on terrorist acts this week, okay? But you're paying for it, folks.
Greg, tell me if I'm wrong. I just had an insight. So basically, I mean, I know, 9 people out of 10 probably know this, but I'm just wrapping my head around this for a minute for people who are in that little 10% that don't really understand. The whole idea for Israel is called ERETZ ISRAEL, which was decided in the 80s. The big project of making the Greater Israel Project, which goes from the Euphrates down to the Nile. Okay, so what's the best way to do that? Let's see. Blow up 350 tons of DUs, depleted uranium munitions, not coated, not tipped, in the Gulf War alone. Engineer the world's most incredible and most formidable immigrations on purpose to get the people out of there, and the rest you can just slaughter like Israel's doing to Palestine now. Am I getting close, Greg?
Yes, you are. And as I said, and this was reaffirmed today, as a matter of fact, the corridor, okay? The Israeli-run corridor, Syria, Iraq, Iran. Now, that's a corridor from the largest natural gas fields, the Pars field, South Pars, and oil, the greatest concentration of oil, sweet oil, doesn't have to be even refined, coming out of Iraq. The amount of oil in Iraq dwarfs Saudi Arabia. So who could be giving us direction? Okay, Saudi Arabia to actually tell a bunch of boys that a bunch of American troops that were being attacked by terrorists. Okay, we got to fight those terrorists. Okay, well, remember, all 3 countries I just named signed an agreement just a few years ago to move natural gas to Syria on the Mediterranean, all right, and actually ship that natural gas to Western Europe. They can power up Western Europe for the next 100 years, foreseeable 100 years, okay? Now, I've already talked about the CIA guards, okay, and special forces. Now, the way I understand this is the Taliban was a group in Afghanistan, was a group of religious students that decided and also managed to get U.S. backing and support. Okay, now isn't this ironic? Okay, we have U.S. backed control of the Taliban, who have now taken over 100% of the poppy fields in Afghanistan and move their opium byproducts to Pakistan and hence shipment to the U.S. Now, they were CIA supported, okay, and I don't think anybody's stupid enough anymore to believe that that Al-Qaeda is really a bunch of bad guys, okay? Right. There are bad guys. There's a big difference there. There are bad guys, okay? Now,
aren't they run by a guy in a cave called Tim Osman on dialysis? After serving he was a CIA asset, right? Tim Osman.
Yes, he was.
/ Osama. Hello.
Right. And that poor cobbler that got killed, okay, what was his name? Akbar Khan? something like that. I believe it was Akbar Khan. Okay. Yeah, he was the lookalike, the Bin Laden lookalike.
Okay, right.
All right. Now here we go, and about all of this started happening when Mr. Bill Clinton, of course, was in office, and it was Mr. Bill Clinton who said, "Yes, we can go ahead and start torturing people." It was Bill and Hill, the Bill and Hill show, that said, "Yeah, we can start torturing people because that's the beginning. It's going to be the beginning." And the CIA really thought about this, okay, that they can start torturing, murdering, and maiming people that are considered troublemakers by any country that wants to do business, called copper green. Well, but they needed a big jump start, okay, to get this thing going. So that jump start was called Oklahoma City. All right. And then on top of everything else, refresh my memory if I'm wrong, wasn't that about the same time that Monica Lewinsky showed up? Okay. Now, ask our listeners about this, but I believe that Monica Lewinsky certainly was a Mossad agent. What has been going on in this country? All right. Do we know? Do our listeners know? I want to know, because I think Monica Lewinsky was intentionally putting herself in position for taking the attention off of the CIA operations in the Middle East, and they were waiting specifically for something called Oklahoma City to wipe out, first of all, to wipe out any evidence that Bill Clinton and Hillary were being paid $10 million a month for allowing cocaine to come into the United States. And then when Oklahoma City, and we're going to hear all about it tomorrow, Oklahoma City blew up. Well, it didn't quite blow up like it was supposed to. And our folks are going to hear what happened and why it happened to get rid of the Bill and Hill cocaine running scheme, okay, in Mena, Arkansas, all that evidence, okay, and they had to bring in, and of course our government had to bring in a hottie, a Mossad hottie, okay, to distract everybody. Everybody was watching to see all that tawdry stuff about Monica Lewinsky.
Right.
And then the Oklahoma City blows up, okay, and what do we hear now? It was our people that intentionally blew it up.
Right. And you know what I call that, Greg? And listen carefully. I'm going to say it like Greg does. Turn up the volume on your speakers, because you know what that was? Oklahoma City was, according to a lot of professionals and people in the knowing, they say that was a test run for 9/11.
Yes, absolutely. Because as you've heard me say, who shows up to my school in North Dakota? The U.S. federal agents.
He loves saying
and
that.
They wanted to know how could a quote loser like Timothy McVeigh, who was busy taking night vision goggles to Waco, okay, for the special forces to annihilate everyone at that building. How would he know how to make a shaped, highly technical weapon, okay, that could cut the Murrah building in half, okay? And the folks are going to hear about the seismic reading of one detonation. Okay, there were two detonations, folks. Don't let me confuse you here.
You can see it when you get an earthquake very clearly.
Yeah, it was a Richter scale for seismic activity.
Right.
All right. And as I said, because the school I went to, and that's why the federal agents showed up, how could somebody make a bomb out of ammonium phosphate, all right, and have it do that kind of damage? Well, it didn't do that damage. It distracted everyone, okay? Most people don't know, folks. You have to listen to the people that do know something, that have been there, all right? So, and then that's where I heard from the federal agents, and if you notice, folks, that they quit talking about Flight 800 over the New York Sound, okay, Long Island Sound, because that's when they got all the parts put together and very clearly heat shear is what cut that plane, that 747 on the way to Paris, cut it in half, and that was from a surface-to-air missile. Okay, U.S. military grade. No one else makes them that I know of. You can't buy those on eBay.
Tell them why. Tell them what's behind that. What's the reason to bring down Flight 800?
Well, the way I understand it, nothing too sinister. Okay. Now, if you're confusing that with the Lockerbie bombing, I'll be glad to tell you about the Lockerbie bombing. All right. But in the Long Island Sound, that was a really bad military exercise that went completely wrong. And of course, we all know when military kills civilians and they're liable for hundreds of millions, if not billions, okay. Gee, where have we seen that before? Oklahoma City, folks. Believe me, these folks don't shy away. When they think they have everyone pulling for them, they will go ahead and annihilate thousands of Americans. Right, New York? You saw it, New York, okay? And that's what they did, okay? They made a mistake in Long Island Sound, dropped that plane out of the sky. They supposedly rebuilt the plane, and they found at seat number 32 of the 747, heat shear, cut that plane in half. That's why they say the front half of that 747 spiraled into the sky with no nose. The nose was gone. It had been blown off. All right, folks? And now the other issue, okay, that we're talking about here, in the Lockerbie bombing, okay, that's near and dear to my heart, because one thing you don't know is, like we do with all our assets that don't toe the line, okay, like Saddam Hussein, who had been virtually, I was just a sparkle in my mother's eye when Saddam Hussein went to work for the CIA, okay? And he was working for the CIA the day he dropped through the trap door and was hung, okay? Hanged, excuse me. And here's something funny, okay? Mr. Muammar Gaddafi, and I believe Abdel Belhaj will support everything I say. Go ahead and look up Abdel Belhaj, and you'll find the same thing. Another CIA operative who started the army that overthrew Gaddafi, guess what? He was actually renditioned like I was, tortured, and then for good measure, they brought his family in to torture them in front of him, okay? Are we talking some nice people here? Okay.
Isn't that what they did with Phil Marshall before killing him?
Yes, they tortured his children in front of him in the basement, in the earthen basement. I know, I've been in the earthen basement, folks. All right, I know what I'm talking about here. And so, what happened with Gaddafi, though, was something even more interesting. Is yes, he wanted to go to the Golden Dinar, and Benghazi was a dumping place for retail, wholesale military missiles, all right? So guess what? He didn't like those missiles being there, 10,200 of them, and he had a conversation with was it Chris Stevens, the ambassador? He knew something was up. Stevens knew it. So guess what? Hillary picks up the phone and calls 1-800 Al-Qaeda, okay? And next thing you know, with a specific request, make sure that big mouth ambassador that we have there is wiped out. And he was wiped out. If you saw any photos of him, he was wiped out, okay? Now, it's good to know that at least we have some government workers who know what they're doing, okay? So yes, he was killed, and Hillary got the 400 surface-to-air missiles, which are even today, blowing planes out of the sky, all right? And yes, she made about $8 million for her, and this really brings tears to my eyes, folks, the Clinton Foundation, okay, because it was on its way to helping the poor in Haiti, okay, with millions of dollars. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. No, the money never got there. That's right.
And
Okay.
if you want to see a good movie on that, it's called Clinton Cash. That's
Clinton
a very,
Cash.
very good movie, explaining how the Clintons were ripping everybody off. And there's a lot of pissed off people in Haiti. And speaking of the Clinton death list, wasn't that the Haitian?
Yes.
Hang
The
on,
ambassador.
his ambassador, right?
Right.
And I had his name down somewhere, but we talked about him on another show before. It's like this. It's always one show after another talking about the same thing.
Well, every week we have a new body. We have a new dead body, Luca. We have a new dead body every week.
This is what they tried to do with Cody Snodgres, because he blew the whistle, and he blew the whistle internationally on the Jeff Rense show, and probably on others as well with Oli Damagard.
Yes.
One of the best journalists that this world has. One of the suffering from integrity, 100%. Okay, and soon after that, he's got a car crash, and he'll tell you all about that on tomorrow's show. So it just we have to wrap it up very quickly, though. Last words?
Yeah, my last words are: President Obama, all right, lied to the world, lied to the American people, he and Hillary, concerning plutonium. He told the world that he was going to restart the plutonium processing process, and he turned out, no, he didn't do that. He was going to do it for space, quote, space exploration.
Right.
All right. Well, that's where all the plutonium that was sent to Mr. Vladimir Putin. Okay, that's where that happened. Hillary Clinton made another fortune. Okay, and because guess what? No one knows this, but I'll tell you, folks. Okay, if you want to find out the truth, you want to find out something, just ask me. I'll do it for free. All right. I'm so pissed off about being tortured in rendition myself. I will tell you for free. All right. And what happened was Kazakhstan, right? That had been the center of all uranium mining and processing for their system of weapon production. Okay. Russia's weapon production. Well, they ran out of uranium. All right. And this goes hand in hand with what happened in Atlanta the other day. Okay. Fake fires, fake damage, diversion. You want to find out, call me. Okay. Call our show. That's what I'm saying. But in the meantime, yes, Kazakhstan, they run out of plutonium. So Vladimir Putin calls Hillary and says, look, we need this stuff. How much you guys want? And that's when Obama came up with a make-believe story about wanting to explore space. Who can argue with that? Boy, that's like NASA adventure stuff. Okay, going to Mars maybe. All right. No, folks. You've been stiffed again. With these people, just look at it like this: you are in prison and you're grabbing your ankles in the shower. Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're grabbing your ankles in the shower by these people. Okay. And they're laughing about it. Okay. You've just heard it. Have a good evening. And boy, this is going to be a great show, Luca. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Well, I beg to differ. This was a great show. And Greg, we really, I have to tell you from the bottom of my heart, and this is my ending quote, or my ending, it's kind of emotionally charged, but it's an important thing that we have to remember when people go through trauma like that, like Greg has, when people think that the most honorable thing to do is to serve your country. Greg and I want to remind you now that before you serve your country, find out who your country is serving first. Okay, because what you're looking at over here is damaged goods because of his own government, his own military, and our allies. So it's very obvious that something's going on, and we need to say how much we honor you, Greg, and how much we honor what you're doing and the courage it takes to do what people like Cody Snodgres are doing, coming back and risking their life. And it's one thing being damaged by what you go through, but you go through it again, you're damaged again because you have to relive it all to tell everybody. And Cody said he had tomorrow morning free because his phone keeps ringing and he keeps getting so many people that want him on the show. So it's like, Greg, it's phenomenal, and it's really heartwarming and also heart-wrenching to go through all this. But we just want to empathize with you and tell you thank you from the bottom of our hearts for what you're doing and for this show to be a success. So
we're doing our best here at the Liberty Beacon to keep you alive and safe and keep you out of this intentional George Orwell 1984 situation that the powers that be want to put you in. Okay, they're dying to put you and your loved ones and all the citizens of America into this one big FEMA concentration camp. All right, so we're doing our best. So don't think I'm doing it for money, folks. All right?
No, I'm not either. And remember one thing, which is really important, okay? You, the person listening, you are not responsible for trying to convince other people of what's going on. Everybody is responsible for their own self. And if you're okay with yourself spiritually, if you're doing your work, God's work, whatever you want to call it, to make this make this world a better world to live in, then that's all that should bother you. Even family. Don't be concerned with people that don't believe you. Don't try and convince everybody and try and talk to them and try and change their mind, because that's what the missionaries did to the Indians. Okay, that's called genocide, and we're no better than them if we do the same thing. So we just got to stay to ourselves, believe what we believe, and hope to God that people, take the bait.
And the U.S. citizens that are listening to this, absolutely, they are in charge. They make up what America is. Not a bunch of phony baloney agencies trying to tell us and convince us through psych warfare, okay, about how things really should be, and they have our best interests at heart. No, people, you are in charge. Start acting like it. All right, start acting like it. We're not going to let a bunch of faceless pimps, take our country. It's over. We're done with that nonsense. Okay, thank you, Luca.
Have a good night.
You too.